Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly changed? I don't mean buying a new phone, trying a new restaurant, or switching jobs. I mean really changed. Your mindset, your habits, your life. For most people, the answer is, it's been a very long time, and that's because comfort is seductive. Comfort whispers, you're fine. Stay here. Don't risk it. Don't push yourself. Just keep things the way they are. And we listen, because staying the same feels safe. You don't have to face rejection. You don't have to fail. You don't have to feel the sting of starting over. But here's the truth, no one likes to admit. Comfort can be more dangerous than failure. Why? Because failure at least moves you. It teaches you. It forces you to grow. But comfort keeps you frozen in place while life keeps moving forward without you. Think about it. How many people stay in jobs they hate for years, telling themselves it's stable? How many people remain in toxic relationships because leaving feels too uncertain? How many dreams have been buried alive under the weight of better not take the risk? Staying the same might feel safe today, but over time it quietly steals your potential. It drains your spirit. And one day you wake up realizing you've lived the same year over and over again and called it a life. So today, let's go deep into the psychology and philosophy of why staying the same is so dangerously comfortable and how you can break free before it's too late. When we talk about comfort, we often mistake it for safety. But there's a big difference between being safe and feeling safe. For example, imagine you're standing at the edge of a forest. Inside, there are unknown paths, challenges, even dangers. Staying outside feels safe. You know the ground you're standing on. But here's the problem. Safety without growth isn't really safety. It's stagnation. Many of us cling to routines not because they fulfill us, but because they're familiar. The human brain is wired to prefer the familiar. Psychologists call it the mere exposure effect. We like what we know, even if what we know isn't good for us. That's why people stay in the same routines for years. Same commute, same conversations, same patterns. It feels predictable. Predictable feels safe. But the safety is an illusion. Life outside your comfort zone continues to expand. The world changes. Opportunities evolve. And the longer you stay in your safe zone, the more the gap between where you are and where you could be begins to widen. Think about a pond that never moves. At first, it looks calm. But over time, still water grows algae, attracts mosquitoes, becomes stagnant. Compare that to a river, always moving, always flowing. The river isn't safe. It's full of rocks, currents, bends. But it's alive. It's fresh. It's full of possibilities. Now let's take this to a personal level. Have you ever avoided making a big decision because you told yourself, I don't want to risk it. Things are fine the way they are. Maybe it was a relationship you knew had no future. Maybe it was a job that drained your spirit. Or maybe it was a dream you kept pushing aside because chasing it felt uncertain. That decision, to do nothing, is where danger lies. Because the pain of change is sharp but temporary. The pain of regret is slow but permanent. And here's the part people don't realize. Every time you choose not to change, you reinforce your fear of change. You teach your brain that staying still is the better option. Over years, that conditioning becomes a cage built not from external barriers, but from your own choices. Philosophers like Søren Kierkegaard called this the disease of despair, when a person refuses to become who they're meant to be because they fear stepping into the unknown. Psychologists describe it as avoidance behavior, and in both cases the outcome is the same, a life unlived. But what if we flipped the script? What if instead of asking, what will I lose if I change, we asked, what will I lose if I don't? Because here's the truth. Staying the same doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you stuck. And being stuck is just another form of dying slowly while pretending you're alive. So the next time comfort whispers, stay here, it's safe, ask yourself, safe for what? Safe from growth, safe from potential, safe from becoming who I truly could be. Comfort is never free. It looks like peace, but it always comes with a hidden price tag. And the longer you stay in it, the more expensive it becomes. Let me explain. When you choose comfort over growth, you don't immediately feel the cost. In fact, you might even feel rewarded. You avoided a risk, you avoided potential failure, you avoided discomfort. On the surface, it looks like you've won. But underneath, something subtle starts to happen. You begin to shrink. Your dreams shrink. Your courage shrinks. Your sense of possibility shrinks, and the scariest part? You don't even notice it happening until years later, when you look back and wonder, what happened to the person I thought I would become? Think about people you know who once had fire in their eyes, big plans, ambitions, maybe even a vision that inspired others. But life got comfortable. They got that secure job. They settled into that routine. Slowly, without realizing it, the fire dimmed. And now they move through their days on autopilot. This is what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You convince yourself you'll be happy once you reach a certain point, a stable salary, a predictable routine, a comfortable life, and when you get there you feel good for a while. But soon that comfort becomes the new normal. Your brain adapts, the excitement fades, and you find yourself needing more comfort, more certainty, more predictability. It's a trap. And while you're busy chasing comfort, the cost shows up in other areas. Lost time. Time spent in comfort is time not spent growing. Every year in stagnation is a year you don't get back. Lost potential. Comfort suffocates possibility. The person you could have become is sacrificed for the person you chose to stay as. Lost self-respect. Deep down, you know you're capable of more, and when you consistently avoid change, you quietly lose respect for yourself. This is why so many people, even those who seem to have it all, feel a haunting emptiness. They've built lives that are stable, but lifeless, comfortable, but uninspired. Let's be real for a second. You've probably had moments where you caught yourself staring out a window, driving alone, or lying awake at night thinking, is this it? Is this really all my life is going to be? That's the cost of comfort. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in silently, stealing your joy in small doses until all that's left is a shell of who you once were. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche warned about this when he spoke of the danger of becoming too domesticated, too tamed by society's standards of safety and normalcy. He believed that human beings are meant to struggle, to overcome, to reach beyond themselves. Without that struggle, without that discomfort, the soul weakens. And here's the paradox. The very thing you think is protecting you, comfort, is the very thing that's quietly destroying you. Let me paint a picture. Imagine a bird that never leaves its cage, even when the door is wide open. Inside, it's safe. No predators, no storms, no risks. But the cost? The bird never learns to fly. It never feels the wind under its wings. It never knows the freedom it was created for. That's what staying the same does to us. It's a cage made of soft pillows, and over time it becomes harder and harder to leave because you've grown used to the padding around you. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Every choice for comfort is also a choice against growth. And every time you avoid discomfort, you pay the cost with your future. The question is, how much longer can you afford to keep paying? If comfort is the silent killer, then fear is its bodyguard. It's the reason you stay in place even when you know deep down you're meant for more. Think about it. How many times have you felt the urge to take a leap, to try something new, to step outside the familiar? But then something inside whispered, what if you fail? And just like that, the moment passed, and you stayed exactly where you were. Fear is sneaky. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it disguises itself as logic. It tells you, be practical, don't risk it. Think about what could go wrong. Other times it shows up as procrastination. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start when I'm ready. I'll move when the timing is perfect. But the truth? That perfect time never comes. Psychologists call this loss aversion. Human beings are wired to fear losing what they already have more than they desire, gaining something new. So even if the new thing could make your life better, your brain clings to what's familiar because it feels safer. But here's the paradox. The things we fear most often turn out to be the very things that free us. Let me tell you a story you might relate to. Imagine someone stuck in a job they hate. Every morning they dread waking up. Every evening they complain about how miserable it makes them. Yet, they don't leave. Why? Because as much as they hate the job, they fear the uncertainty of what comes next even more. The idea of not having a paycheck, of not knowing what's ahead, feels unbearable. So, they choose the known misery over the unknown possibility. And maybe you've done the same. Stayed in a relationship long past its expiration date. Held on to a dream you've outgrown. Avoided a conversation you knew you needed to have. Why? Because change is terrifying. Nietzsche once said, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." What he meant was that growth always requires facing chaos, stepping into uncertainty, confronting fear, and risking the unknown. Without chaos, nothing new can be born. Without discomfort, there is no transformation. But fear doesn't just hold you back from growth. It also distorts your identity. You start believing that your fears define you. I'm just not that kind of person. I'm not brave enough. I'm not ready. And with every excuse, you build another wall around yourself until eventually your life feels smaller and smaller. The truth is, fear isn't here to stop you. It's here to test you, to ask, how much do you want this? How much are you willing to risk for the life you know you could be living? And here's something most people don't realize. Fear doesn't disappear when you stay the same. You don't avoid it. You just exchange one fear for another. You trade the fear of change for the fear of regret, the fear of uncertainty for the fear of wasted years, the fear of failure for the fear of never truly living. Which one do you want to live with? Every strong, fulfilled person you admire has one thing in common. They felt fear, but they moved anyway. They stepped into the unknown. They faced rejection, failure, uncertainty. And yes, sometimes they fell, but every fall taught them, shaped them, and eventually lifted them higher. Fear only loses its power when you stop running from it. Because when you finally confront it, you realize fear is just a shadow. It looks big in the dark, but the closer you get, the smaller it becomes. So maybe the question isn't, how do I stop being afraid? Maybe the better question is, what am I losing every time I let fear decide my future? We all have that little voice inside that says, not now, but one day. One day I'll leave this job. One day I'll chase that dream. One day I'll tell the truth about how I really feel. One day I'll finally become the person I know I can be. And so we wait. But here's the harsh truth. One day is the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves, because one day isn't a day on the calendar. It's a fantasy, a trick your mind plays to protect you from the discomfort of acting today. It allows you to stay in the safety of tomorrow while quietly killing the possibilities of your life. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start when the timing is better, but then months, even years passed and nothing changed? The timing never gets better. The fear never completely goes away. The stars never align perfectly. And deep down, you know this. But there's something oddly comforting about believing in one day. It gives you the illusion of progress while you're still standing still. It soothes your guilt because at least you plan to change, just not right now. It's like carrying around a ticket for a train you never actually board. You hold it in your hand feeling safe because you could leave at any moment. But day after day, you stay on the platform, watching trains come and go, while your life quietly slips by. Let's make this even more personal. Picture your future self, 5-10 years from now. Will that version of you thank you for waiting? Or will they look back and ache with regret, wishing you had started sooner? Most people underestimate how costly one day really is, because while you're waiting, the world doesn't pause. Opportunities vanish, relationships fade, your energy declines, and worst of all, your belief in yourself erodes a little more every time you delay. You might think waiting protects you from failure, but in reality, waiting guarantees a different kind of failure, the failure of never even trying. And here's something sobering. One day, you'll run out of one days. You won't have endless chances. You won't have unlimited tomorrows. Life is short, unpredictable, and brutally honest in how quickly it passes. The philosopher Seneca once said, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." He wasn't exaggerating. Every moment you delay, you're making a choice, even if it doesn't feel like one. By doing nothing, you're deciding to stay the same. So ask yourself honestly, how much of your life has already been lived in someday? How many dreams are sitting in the attic of your mind, collecting dust, waiting for that magical moment that never came? Maybe this is the real danger of comfort. It teaches you to believe that you always have more time, but you don't. None of us do. And if that feels heavy, good. Let it be heavy, because sometimes it takes staring directly into the weight of time to finally wake up. The truth is, there is no one day. There's only today. The choices you make now shape the life you'll live tomorrow. The steps you take now decide the person you'll become. So what are you waiting for? You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to move, to take one small step, even if it's messy, even if it's scary. Because action, no matter how small, is what kills the myth of someday. And once you start, you'll realize one day was never coming to save you. It was always going to be you. So here we are. We've walked through the quiet dangers of comfort, the invisible chains of fear, and the myth of one day. But now comes the real question. What will you do about it? Because knowledge, without action, is just another form of comfort. It makes you feel wise while you remain unchanged. The truth is, breaking free is never easy. If it were, everyone would do it. Most people don't stay the same because they're weak. They stay the same because comfort is seductive. It whispers, "You're fine, don't rock the boat, don't risk anything, just stay here, it's safe." But ask yourself, is safety really worth the cost of never becoming who you could be? Think about the moments in history, in stories, or even in your own life when growth happened. Did it happen when things were easy? Or did it happen when you were pushed to the edge, when you had no choice but to rise, to stretch, to fight for something bigger? Every person you admire, whether a philosopher, an artist, or even someone close in your own life, has had to face this moment. The moment where they chose to step out of what was familiar and into what was uncertain, and that's the moment waiting for you too. Here's the paradox. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and moving anyway. It's about looking fear in the eye and saying, "You don't get to decide my life." Maybe you're scared of failure. Maybe you're scared of judgment. Maybe you're scared of losing something or someone. And that's okay. Fear will always be part of the process. But here's the shift. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" ask, "What if I succeed? What if this changes everything?" And even deeper, what if staying the same is the greater failure? Because at the end of your life, you won't regret the mistakes you made nearly as much as the chances you never took. You won't regret the risks that didn't work out nearly as much as the dreams you abandoned before they even had a chance. You've probably heard the saying, "Ships are safe in harbor," but that's not what ships are built for. The same is true for you. You weren't built to stay anchored in the shallow waters of comfort. You were built to sail, to explore, to discover how much you're truly capable of. But here's the thing. They never tell you that the first step will feel impossible. Your heart will pound. Your mind will scream at you to turn back. Every part of you will want to retreat to the safety of what you know. And that's how you'll know you're on the right path. Because growth always feels uncomfortable at first. Change always feels dangerous. But the danger isn't in the change. The danger is in never changing at all. So, how do you break free? You start small. One decision, one action, one step outside the circle you've been standing in. Maybe it's saying no when you've always said yes. Maybe it's picking up that passion project you've been ignoring. Maybe it's having the conversation you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, take that step. Then take another, and another. Momentum builds faster than you think. And the more steps you take, the quieter fear becomes, and the stronger your courage grows. One day you'll look back and realize that the hardest part wasn't the journey, it was deciding to begin. So let me leave you with this. Comfort is easy, but it's also a slow death. Change is terrifying, but it's where life actually begins. You already know which path you've been on. The question is, are you brave enough to choose differently now? Because the dangerous comfort of staying the same will always be waiting for you, but so will the life you've been dreaming of. And the choice, right here, right now, is yours.